Phylanice Nashe Experience Podcast. Hello, world, and welcome to the Phylanice Nashe Experience Podcast, an audio series of lighthearted and sometimes third eye-opening conversations on entrepreneurship, leadership, and relationships from the African American perspective. I am your host, Phylanice Nashe. Welcome. And today's guest is one powerhouse of a chief messenger and motivational speaker. He travels worldwide and empowers hundreds of thousands of people, from students to administrators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders, on how to be impactful influencers and also how to turn impossibilities into I'm possibilities. He's one of the sought after change agents. He's also an award-winning author. Let's go ahead and let our guest introduce himself and tell us a little bit more about his journey. Let's welcome Mr. I Am Possible, Keith L. Brown, to the show.
Woo! Yes.
Hey.
GOODJOB. Good job. Good job. I said GOODJOB. Good job. Good job.
Hey.
I'm so delighted, ignited, and excited to be here with Dr. Phil. I want to thank you for inviting me to this purposeful podcast. Keith L. Brown, Mr. I'm Possible here. I believe it's not impossible, it's I'm possible. But you know, Dr. Phil, early on, the real Dr. Phil, let me say that, the real Dr. Phil, early on, my life was not always in the form of the I'm possibilities. Yep. There were some impossibilities. Early on, I was labeled special ed. I was labeled at risk. I was labeled a potential menace to society. I grew up with two mothers, two fathers, brothers and sisters on both sides. I grew up in a blended family, but there was love there. But I also lost a brother to sickle cell anemia, but I'm still standing. I've lost a sister to the AIDS virus, but I'm still standing. My wife and I have lost two babies, but we have an awesome 25-year-old son, and his name is Keon J. Brown, an honors graduate of the Savannah State University, and now a director of policy in the Georgia Senate. So we are blessed beyond belief. We are still here. My mother is 77 years old. And there was a time we used to tuck my mother into bed, right? There was a time she would tuck us in, rather. Now we tuck her in. There was a time when she used to pray over us. Now we pray over her, because my mother is battling Alzheimer's disease and we are co-caregivers. I lost one of my dads in February during this pandemic, but I'm still here. And so I want all of your faithful listeners out there to understand, if you are still here, there is still hope. If you are still here, you can still go from impossible to I'm possible. And whatever you do, do not let this pandemic paralyze your purpose or diminish your destiny. Let me say that again. Do not allow this pandemic to paralyze your purpose or diminish your destiny. And so regardless of all the impossibilities in my life, I still stand strong and firm as Mr. I'm Possible, internationally known, nationally recognized, and locally accepted.
Love that. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for bringing that energy to the show.
Absolutely.
So many people, I have heard motivational speakers over the years. I don't remember anybody coming in so powerful as you. Where does this come from, Keith? Like, where's the seed that's inside of you? Where did that come from?
Well, you know what? It's innate. It's innate. And I even have to go deeper. Our people. I come from a proud people that sang a strange song in a strange land. I believe that as Black people in America, we are God's children, but America's orphans. We are still God's children, but America's orphans, but we still came with a certain level of enthusiasm, a certain level of optimism, a certain level of hope. And that was just passed down to me. And so I am one of those hyperactive children. I am one of those who has always been energetic, enthusiastic. I've always wanted to give all the answers. I always wanted to bring the solutions. I always wanted to talk and inspire people. And those were some of the traits that had me placed in special ed. But ironically, they are also the traits that take me nationally and globally as a professional speaker, as a change agent, an empowerment coach, and now even as a COVID recovery coach. And so, in spite of all the impossibilities in life, I still went from impossible to I'm possible. So I'm a professional speaker. I'm a director of external affairs in the Georgia Senate. I'm an author. I'm a coach. I'm a trainer, and I even work in the entertainment industry. So shout out to the IPY agency and Adrian Allen, my publicist, who makes so many things happen for my brand. And so I guess you could call me a Renaissance man who uses my gift to uplift and inspire the masses.
So we had Adrian on 2 episodes ago, and she did a wonderful job. And I think more people realize that they need publicists now than if they did not know before she came on. So shout out to
Yes,
Adrian. Yes,
yes.
yes. And she's the reason why we connected. Um, so I want to ask a little bit about, just to pull back the layers just a little bit. Um, who is supporting your journey? Who are the people that are holding Keith L. Brown up on those days when you don't feel like having that energy? And the second question I have is, when do you sleep?
I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, I have to give a shout out to my lovely wife, Dr. Wakia Brown, who is an elementary school principal and a child and youth advocate here in the Metro Atlanta area. Um, that's my place of comfort. That's my place of serenity. That's my place where I can cry in the midnight hour. And I think it's a blessing because more Black men deserve to be with Black women who do not find them crying as something that's negative. Mm-hmm. They don't have to cry in the dark. They don't have to hide. And so, I'm in a wonderful situation where I can cry. And I'm going to say to all of your listeners, real men cry. And one of the things I want to say is we need to stop telling our Black and brown boys that real men don't cry, because when we do that, we dehumanize them. And a lot of times, if they keep it all bottled up, it comes out in rage. And so real men do cry. And so let me just say that. And then I have my sensational son, Keon J. Brown. My son is sensational and he holds me down and he leans on me and I lean on him. And it's wonderful. And then I have a tremendous team, Green Screen Productions, Michaela Green. Awesome team members, videographers and tech directors and fellow coaches who hold me down when I'm at my weakest point. Because the reality is, I've come to the realization I don't have to be strong all the time. And, I'm just going to say this, many times we as African Americans, the first time there's tragedy or something happens or we're going through something, what do we tell each other? Be strong. Well, I'm going to tell your listeners, no, in your human weakness, have you a support system that allows you to be weak. Have you a support system that will stand in the gap for you, that will build you up, that will intercede on your behalf. And that's what I have. So during those times when I don't feel like Mr. Impossible, I have a strong family unit here at home, a strong team. I have a strong team that lifts me up. And then at the end of the day, my followers, my fans, those who send me those positive messages, those who celebrate me, those who keep me and that validation going, those who tell me that they need a word. Because at the end of the day, this is what I believe. The best way to overcome your situation is to help someone overcome theirs. And so that's how we go from impossible to I'm possible. And then the second question was, when do I sleep? I'm like Robert Frost. These woods are lonely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. I'm like Langston Hughes, who said, I too am America. I'm the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh, eat well, and grow strong. Because see, Dr. Phil, tomorrow I will be at the table. Nobody will dare say eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they will see how beautiful I am. They will see how beautiful you are. We too are America. And so when the Mike Browns of the world have an opportunity, when the Trayvon Martins of the world are no longer slaughtered, I stood in Mike Brown's blood. When Tamir Rice can live, when Sandra Bland can live, when Philando Castile, right? When Breonna Taylor, and so many others are not being slaughtered in America, then I will not only sleep, but I will rest. So I sleep a lot, but I don't always rest. But the fight continues. The fight continues for social justice. The fight continues for voter suppression. And so, to answer your question, many times I sleep, but I don't rest, knowing that so many of my people are oppressed, suppressed, repressed, and depressed. So it's very important that I do make time to release, relax, and restore. And my wife makes me do that. So I'm looking forward to not only sleeping, but I'm looking forward to resting as well.
Hey man, I had to take a breath for you right there. So, what is I'm unpacking everything that you're saying. What is the legacy that you want to leave here, Keith? What is your ultimate goal? Because I know you've touched thousands of people, encouraging them to become better versions of themselves, right? But what is your ultimate? If you had one thing that you want someone to say about you when it's all said and done, what is that one thing?
When it's all said and done, I would like the world to say, here was an enthusiastic, empowered servant leader who decided that he would have the nerve to serve, that he would feed the need to lead, and that he taught the world how to turn impossibilities into impossibilities. At the end of the day, I don't just want to show up. I don't just want to show up for public events. I want to show up for public service. See, because we have many people that show up for public events, but not public service. I also want them to say, Mr. Impossible taught us how to expand our impact, our influence, and our income. That he taught us how to expand our impact, our influence, and our income. So when it's all said and done, I would love for that to be my legacy.
Tell us a little bit about the I'm Possible Institute. What can one learn if we engage there and become a student of your institute? What can we expect to learn?
Well, absolutely. Well, Dr. Phil, you will never be a student. You will be a scholar,
Ah,
because anybody can be a student. It doesn't take any effort to be a student. That's what society calls you anyway. I tell young people all the time, when you show up in that middle or high school classroom or that college classroom, the basis and the foundation is that you're students. So you don't have to do anything, but you have to exercise your right to become a scholar. You have to put work in and some sweat equity to become a scholar. And so at the Impossible Institute, once again, it goes back to impact, influence, and income. And we train you on how to be a business that has integrity, a business that places customer service at the apex of everything that you do. And I'm going to say this. Yes, I'm a Black owned business, but I don't want people to support me just because I'm a Black owned business. Support me because I'm a just Black owned business. And so I teach those traits at the Impossible Institute. Speaking effectively. My latest book is called Talk is Expensive. That is one of our signature programs at the Impossible Institute. Talk is expensive. So we train emerging speakers who desire to be professional speakers, not just motivational speakers, because many times you can be a motivational speaker but not be paid, but professional speakers are paid. So we teach them how to be serious about their craft. You can be a motivational speaker and it can just be your hobby, but we teach them that professional speakers, this is not our hobby, this is what we do, and this is who we are. And so I teach professional speakers and train and coach entrepreneurs, the effectiveness and the efficiency of customer service. I think that's so very important. And then we talk about the fact that talk is expensive, because all of our lives, that is my new award-winning book. And all of our lives, we've been taught that talk is cheap. We've been taught that actions speak louder than words, and actions may speak louder than words, but it's the words that move people to action. On January the 6th, we saw a profound example that talk is not cheap, it's expensive. As a man stood at a podium, and I would not dare say his name on such a powerful show, such a powerful podcast. But this individual stood at a podium and he told thousands to go to the Capitol and fight like hell. And they did. And they caused millions of dollars in damage. These insurgents, individuals that President Biden called thugs, and they stormed the Capitol. And lives were lost on that day, and property was damaged on that day, and they desecrated the Capitol on that day. And it was the talk of one individual that sent them there, insurgents. And they had Congress in fear. They had Congress literally scrambling for their lives, members of Congress. And so right there, we saw that talk is not cheap, but it's expensive. And it was expensive on that day. The remnants of that was expensive on that day. And so even now, I teach my clients that if you go into a career interview and you might be the best candidate for the position, but if you don't know how to communicate effectively, you may walk away without the position, and that's not cheap. Your lack of communicating effectively, your lack of talk was expensive. And so we have to stop saying that talk is cheap. No, talk is not cheap, it's expensive. I have people to invest in my ability to communicate effectively, and that is expensive, as I'm able to be a philanthropist and help so many go to college. I'm able to sow seeds across the world because of those companies and agencies and schools and government industries that invest in the way in which I talk and the results and solutions I bring. So talk is not cheap, talk is expensive. And we talk a lot about that at the I'm Possible Institute.
Great word. Great word. So we're kind of getting close to the end here. So I want to make sure that my viewers and my listeners know, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get this energy poured into them so that they can make certain things possible for themselves? Go ahead and drop that social media and let us know where we can find you, follow you, and get in touch with you.
Absolutely. I'm at Keith L. Brown _ on Instagram. That's KEITHL Brown _ on Instagram. Keith L. Brown 1911 on Twitter and Facebook. And also Keith L. Brown 1911 is my YouTube channel. And my website is keithlbrown.com. And of course, if they want to book me, Adrian at theipyagency.com. That's ADRIENNE at theipyagency.com. And Dr. Phil, one of the things I definitely want to put out there to your listeners, if they want to go from impossible to I'm possible, I want them to get into a mindset right now where they move away from blood is thicker than water. Let me say this, because blood is thicker than water, but sometimes blood clots, but water flows. Sometimes blood clots, but water flows. And so I want these emerging entrepreneurs or those who desire to be entrepreneurs or speakers or whatever, don't just rely on family members to help you reach your destiny. Because many times you're going to have members in your family, your blood, that I call blood clots, who are not going to support you, who are not going to love you, who are not going to promote your dreams and your vision. So what you have to do is you have to find the water. And the water might be people who you don't know, but they will help you to flow. They might be friends that are not your family members, but they help you to flow. So I want you to understand today, 50 to 75% of the people who are going to help you, you haven't even met them yet. But if you keep on relying on the same old family members who've never supported you, if you keep relying on that same support system that never supported you, then you're going to miss out on thousands who will support you. And so do understand that many times, if you just put your gift out there, if you focus on perfecting your gift and your craft, you will see the manifestation of the fruits of your labor.
Thank you for that nugget of wisdom, Keith. Thank you so much. Everybody who's listening, everyone who's watching, listen to what this man is telling you. Get outside of your circle and get you someone who's going to be supportive of your dream. Keith, I want to thank you again for coming on the show and bringing your energy. Thank you very much. And I hope that everyone who listens here gets in contact with you and turns that impossibility into I'm possible. Keith, thank you again.
Thank you so much. Be empowered, not devoured.
I love it. I love it. So you can find all of Keith's contacts, all his social media, everything that he listed here on the show notes. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in, for watching, for listening. You can make sure that you find this episode, seasons 1 and 2 of the Phylanice Nashe podcast, on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Amazon and iHeartRadio. You can also find all of this information on my website, PhylaniceNasheExperience.com. Make sure you check out and subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Phylanice Nashe Experience Podcast YouTube channel. And you can also follow me on social media, Phylanice Nashe, at IG, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I want to make sure that everyone comes back. So get vaccinated. COVID is still here. Stay safe, wash your hands, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.